Goodness. Okay, lots of stuff's been going on, not just in Hollywood, but here in D.C. We've got the D.C. City Council's just filled with scandal right now. We're going to get to that. George Zimmerman's been in the news because he's back in jail after his bond was revoked. And Michael Jackson's estate is being sued by an apparent former lover.
Ooh, this sounds juicy.
Let's start with that one.
Okay, we've got all the hottest legal headlines with our Attorney Supreme, Jonathan Burns, back with us. Hello, Jonathan.
How are you guys doing?
Happy Friday to you. Yeah. All right, let's start locally since this D.C. story is so juicy. And we've got new charges now. A second charge today brought up against Kwame Brown.
Yeah, Kwame, obviously we all know he resigned on Wednesday after he was charged with 2 counts of federal bank fraud. And then obviously most recently he's been charged with a misdemeanor for campaign finance violations.
I mean, it's one thing after another considering what has happened in the past with this counsel. The second one to kind of bite the dust here.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and actually Kwame's scheduled to be in court just about right now, so he's expected to plead guilty to the 2 bank fraud charges in federal court in D.C. and then actually walk down the block to Superior Court, and he's expected to plead guilty to the campaign finance violation charges as well.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah, so you got the felony charge, the bank fraud charges are the really heavy ones. What are the possible penalties he could be facing if found guilty?
Well, it really depends. I mean, nothing's been actually played out in court yet, but the maximum penalty for that type of crime is 30 years. But based upon the federal sentencing guidelines, he's going to potentially see, I mean, far, far less time.
Especially when you plead guilty.
Right. And so the way the claim was issued, it's actually already talked about. He's already kind of issued a plea. So, I mean, I think at this point, he's doing what he can for himself to put himself in the best position.
And we're knowing what to expect.
And like you were mentioning, the whole idea is that people are just getting so fed up with their city government at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think, obviously, like you mentioned, Natasha, it's been one thing after another. So at this point, I mean, if you watch all the news shows, local D.C. citizens are just up in arms with all the different type of corruption.
Yeah, we went through this before during the Marion Barry days of yesteryear, and it seems like, you know, it was quiet for a little while, and here we go again.
Again, yes, no, exactly. So hopefully, I mean, the mayor's come out, tried to reassure everybody that the government's being run efficiently and effectively, so hopefully that will quash some of the anxiety, but then again, obviously, this continues to happen.
Okay, I got to get to this one. Michael Jackson's estate is sued for $1 billion. What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's a ludicrous, completely frivolous lawsuit. A lady named Kimberly Griggs filed a handwritten lawsuit against Michael.
Those are special. Those are very special.
Filed a handwritten lawsuit against Michael Jackson's estate for $1 billion. And she's claiming that beginning in 1979, she had a sexual affair with Michael Jackson, and then ultimately he wrote many of his songs purportedly about their personal relationship. And then she said when she brought it up to Michael, he was like, well, Kimberly, I will give you part of the proceeds from the songs later down the road. Ultimately, Michael Jackson passed, as we all know, and then Kimberly was up in arms because she never received any proceeds.
She comes out of nowhere, although she didn't sue him when he was alive for these hits.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so suspicious. Obviously, Michael Jackson's no longer alive. He can no longer defend himself.
And Kimberly who? Have we ever heard this name before?
No, and another important thing to note, she's a convicted felon, and she served many years in prison for burglary and robbery.
Oh, my.
Okay, then.
Always a great story there. All right, the NFL facing a lawsuit from a lot of players. This is over the concussions.
Right, and this is a very, very, very big deal. This is going to be the biggest sports lawsuit in history. I mean, it's a class action lawsuit filed by ex-NFL players, over 2,000 ex-NFL players, and they're claiming that the NFL withheld and failed to disclose information that they had at their disposal that confirmed a link between concussions and long-term brain damage.
So they're essentially saying the NFL knew about these dangers and withheld it from them.
Exactly.
And how can they prove that, do you think, in court? What do they need to prove that?
Well, there's a process during the litigation process called discovery. So the NFL is going to have to put forth all their documentation, and then they're going to get, the plaintiffs are going to get to interview individuals in the front office and individuals over that period of time that could have information and knowledge about those issues.
Do you think this is all bubbling to the surface because of some recent deaths, or do you think it has more to do with the new information that came out linking the concussions to severe head injury?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the recent deaths. Obviously, Junior Seau was a big individual, and that really kind of, he wrote, obviously, a suicide letter, and that talked about how he wanted his brain
wanted to donate his brain to science to get
studied.
So
I think that really kind of showcased this and really underscored the whole
thing. On the flip side of this, I got to play the devil's advocate. It's football. You're getting pushed around, beaten up on the field. This is going to happen if you're going to play football, right?
Right, yeah, and obviously we all know there's some inherent risk in playing football. But then again, if the NFL knew that there was a confirmed link between concussions and long-term brain damage and failed to disclose that information and failed to warn,
that I hear you on.
And then failed to impose greater safety regulations, then you really get into the realm of they did something improper.
And then you would also have to bring in whoever makes the helmets, because they probably sold them as perfectly safe to the NFL.
I guess you should be a lawyer. Actually,
mean,
Rydell, the helmet manufacturer, is also named in the lawsuit as well.
Oh, okay.
Hey, this could mean a lot of money down the line if it goes that way.
If it goes that way, obviously there's over 2,000 plaintiffs, and it could be more because the lawsuit's still open. But the plaintiffs have not specified a monetary amount that they're seeking. They just obviously...
So is this just a scare tactic to do something outside of court, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think they're really trying to change the game. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the interviews with these former players, but they are in horrible shape.
Oh, yeah, and it's hard to watch.
Horrible shape,
But in a way, if they keep on pushing this, and who wants to go to court over this, although there could be a lot of wrangling between all the plaintiffs and the NFL, you would think somehow they could come to a compromise to say we're going to beef up our safety guidelines. But then again, these former players are probably looking for some compensation as well.
They are looking for compensation, but then from the NFL's perspective, if you make the game too much less violent, then you kind of lose the game altogether, and then you could lose that fan base, and that's what they're concerned about too. Obviously, they want to impose greater safety regulations, but if you make it almost like a touch football game, no one's going to watch it.
That's true. Jonathan Burns, thanks so much. Always have some great information.
Right,
we're talking about that one, I think, for a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a good weekend.
You
Thanks
too,
for being here.
Thank you, of course.